I am a pilgrim and a stranger traveling through this wearisome land, and I got a home.
We got our fireplace done finally in the cabin, and being as we tried to do a lot of stuff primitive, or the primitive way, we thought it'd be fun or neat or silly or something other to try to build our fire with the primitive ways. So I'm going to try first a flint and steel method, and then after that I'm going to try the hand drill, which is way more primitive. But on your flint and steel, you had to have this would have been during the mountain man, as they call it, times, and the fur trade eras. This black stuff here, all that is half burnt or carbonized, really, pure cotton cloth. It's called char cloth, and you make your own. But you can just take an old cotton t-shirt or cotton balls or whatever. Cotton t-shirts work real nice, but they would have took strips of cotton, and you set fire to it, and you have a little can. They would have had a little can back in those days, and you burn it, set fire to it, and when it starts to get where it's all burned up, turning black, then you drop it down in the can and put the lid on it and smother it out, and it keeps it from burning completely up to ash, but it gets it to where that it's real volatile, in other words. So hopefully one of these sparks that comes off this piece of flint, a hot piece of flint will fly off here hopefully and land in that and set fire to that, and if it does, it'll just start spreading through that, because it's real easy to catch fire. Now, your piece of flint has to be sharp on the edge. It can't be dull, which is why I had the deer antler. To go around the edges, I sharpened all the edges of this thing, because I figured, being as I haven't had a whole lot of practice with this, it'd take every edge I had, probably. Sometimes I get lucky and sometimes I don't. But if you'll notice, it's good and sharp like a cutting edge, but not real thin. So that's important on your flint. You could do that with a copper bopper if you wanted to. They call it a cut modern tool, anything to knock it off. This right here is not what a mountain man would have used. He would have had a striker that people have seen. It's like a half or semicircle kind of deal you hold in your hand, but it's high carbon steel, and this I have one of those strikers but can't find it. So this is a file, or yeah, it's a file, so it's the same high carbon steel, and I'm just going to try it with this file, and that's what I'm going to use to strike the flint. This is a piece of, I call it tender fungus. Now, I don't know if it's what they call a true tender fungus or not, but it works great as what they call a coal extender. If I get a spark to start in this char cloth, it'll just start spreading, but it won't be real big and hot. So I'm going to try to put it over in some of this ground up dry tender fungus that I got off the side of a locust tree on the side of the mountain, and it'll spread through that and make a bigger ember. And then when I get that big ember, hopefully, if everything goes right, I'm going to take that and put it over inside what we call a bird's nest. And this one happens to be made out of ground or crushed up and beat up cedar bark, which makes a good bird's nest. But you can use any kind of dry grass and whatever, something that'll burn, something that's good and dry. And I'll say one thing, there may be people out there in the world that can go out in the woods in a rainstorm and get the materials and do this, but I wouldn't stake my life on it, because I've tried it, and it's hard enough when you've got dry materials. And I think that primitive people carried a fire starting kit with them in a dry pack, just like we would carry matches or a big lighter today, and if they didn't, they probably froze to death somewhere. Now, that's my opinion. John McPherson would probably tell me I didn't know what I was talking about, but I'm not John McPherson. So, okay, what we're going to do, and also A mountain man that really knew what he was doing and done this all the time would not have a whole pile of his char cloth here. He'd just have a little piece, probably up in his hand in a piece of leather, and he'd have a striker to come down and strike a piece onto that, a piece of this flint onto that. But since I'm using this file, it eats up my char cloth that way, so I'm just going to try to hold it up here above it and see if I can shower a spark off into that, and by having a larger area of char cloth, I got a better chance of that happening. So here goes nothing. We'll try it. And there it is. See it glowing right here? Now if I can get that up, let's get our coal extender, see if we can get I should have done this first. I think it'll be alright. Main thing is not to panic. See, I'm grinding this fungus up, which I should have done a while ago, but that'll just keep going through that char cloth, set fire to the whole world here in a few minutes. Now I can take that and put it over in that, take the edge of my knife here and put that over in that fungus. Hopefully get it started going. If not, see, I'm going to have to take some of this off because I don't want to burn it all up. See there? There's one. It's alright, we'll use him too. Put a little on top of that. This is not necessary, but just to make sure that you're going to have plenty of good hot stuff to go in you. See this over here still burning? I'm going to have to take him off here and mash him. Don't want to waste my charcoal. Now see, my tender fungus is burning now. And I ain't got to get in no hurry now and panic and all that, because that's going to sit there for minutes and minutes and minutes. And slowly burn through that. I'll just give a little air. You can see it glowing, or I hope you can. Have you seen it glowing enough? Okay, so now we've got something to start with. It's worked out pretty good there. Now, let's see. I'm going to use this here. I've got another little bundle over there. Look here, look at this stuff over here still set afire. See, that's dangerous. You just don't hardly want to go out when you get. I'll tell you what I'm going to do with that. I'm just going to put it over here in the fireplace, because that's dangerous to have in your car or whatever. I can make more charcoal. But, okay. Now we got our little tinder bundle here, and I'm going to do something else. I still ain't worried about that. It's alright. I'm going to grind a little bit of this right in there. This ain't necessary, but I'm going to do it anyway, because I've got it. One thing that'll do is help hold your little coal in there. Not let it slip out the bottom. Now, very carefully, take this and dump it in the center of your tinder fungus. And you don't want to be holding this out over your cabin floor. I'm blow on it gently. Very gently at first. As it gets bigger, little harder blunt. Woo! Flames. Set it over in there. Get our little sticks. Small, tender. May have to blow a little on it. Oh me. Oh! No far! There we go. Get a breath of air now. Oh man. Not easy to do inside a fireplace. Okay, now we got our fire going. We can add a little more small stuff there. And I hope this thing starts drawing here in a minute, go another direction. We'll let her catch up there. This is an outdoor activity. I'll push that back in there a little bit. Go that way, buddy. Okay, when that starts burning good, it's always a good idea, or it's not a good idea, it's imperative to have different size tinder. Go on your fire. You don't want to throw a great big chunk of log on top of your spark, obviously. Well, it's not as obvious, some people do it. And it's hard enough to do without doing that. You'll put your fire out, so just take your time, let it catch, and then you can add bigger fuel as you go along. But that there ain't going nowhere. And that is flint and steel, and it actually worked a whole lot better than I thought it was going to. I'll have to make some new char cloth, but that's easy. I got plenty of wore out t-shirts. Now for the fun. The flint and steel worked out real good. Now we're going to try go back a long way back into time and try what's called a hand drill. A lot of people know have seen fire made with a bow, and it's basically the same thing, except for with a hand drill you're using your hands to turn the spindle. This is a spindle instead of a bow, which makes it a little more difficult, but it's not as bad as it looks if you practice it, which I haven't in a while. But I'll talk to you about the different components. Now you can take a piece of whatever kind of material you're going to use for the long part or the spindle and just make it solid all the way up that piece. But what you have to do if you do that is you have to make sure that it's straight and that it's solid. It's not going to break on you, and it just creates extra problems. And guys out there that are a lot better at it than I am do it that way. But I'm going to show you a little easier way and to help you starting out especially. And I just use it this way because it's all authentic and it really doesn't matter to me how I do it as long as I do it. So what I've done, instead of having this material at the bottom, this little plug here, is what you have to have be a certain kind of wood. Now there's several things that you can use for that. In this case I'm using the stalk out of a yucca plant, the flower stalk. And I cut this back in the summer when it was still green, and I mean the juice was running out of it, and I just actually laid it up on the dash of my truck out in the field, but you can lay it anywhere, let it dry, but I want to dry it quickly. So you just get it dry, and once you've got several of these plugs dry, then you can use them whenever you need them. And what I've done is just, it wasn't exactly right to fit in the end of this piece of cane, which I cut specifically to receive this plug. And cane has solid joints ever so often, so when you make one of these, you want to cut just a little farther down from one of your solid joints here, so that will help prevent splitting. You know, if this was not there, it would go on up in there and cause it maybe to split if it got too far. So you can use yucca right off the bat. I think you can use yucca and goldenrod are two real good things to use for spindles. And to make it easier on you, get you a piece of cane and fit you a plug in there, and you can take that plug out when it gets down this far and put another one in. It's just a lot easier. And also, instead of having to put this in this board, which we'll talk about in a minute, instead of having to come down here and turn this, well, it won't be turning the whole thing, but anyway, you'll turn all the way down. And when your hands get down here, you have to stop and come back to the top and go down again and stop. Every time you stop, you're letting it cool just a little bit here. So, to stop that problem, John Sedario, old friend of mine, good friend of mine, that I've learned a lot of things from, showed me how to take a piece of leather. You can use your boot string. This happens to be a piece of brain tan deer skin I tanned myself, and I found it to be nearly the toughest thing on earth. I don't believe the metal could be any tougher. And make you two little thumb loops that your thumbs go in, and this goes in a little notch on the top up here. It's like an arrow knock. And then that way you can hold downward pressure without your hands going to the bottom, and you don't have to stop. You can just keep turning and holding downward pressure, and you can see how that will help you. You don't have to stop, and therefore you're not cooling off every time. So that's the setup. It don't have to be done that way. People do this with a pump drill, they do it with a bow, they do it all kinds of stuff. This is just a different method. Now, to hold this board steady, because my back's broke, most people will put their foot up here like that, but that hurts my back. So I take another board or stick or whatever, and I lay it right there like that.